Did you decide one day that you needed to lose a few pounds and thought riding your bike would be just the thing? I know I did. Did you realize after some time that it wasn't really working? I know I did.
This video is going to prove the myth that you'll probably never lose weight simply by just riding your bike, unless you adhere to some simple rules I'll explain later in the video.
So let's get started.
Tally-ho! Now let me just say up front that this video's intention isn't to convince you to stop riding bikes. Quite the contrary. Bicycling is one of the best activities you can do. You can develop tremendous fitness, heart health, build lasting friendships, and it's a sport you can do well into later in life.
I've been doing this for years, man.
To those who have never been here before, first of all, welcome.
Hello?
Hello.
Our entire channel is devoted to folks in their 40s and older who love biking. So when I got back into biking about 6 years ago, one of my main goals was that it would help me lose some weight. And in those 6 years, I've managed to lose... Okay, I've gained 30 pounds. Looking at my Strava numbers, in that time, I've logged the equivalent of biking from my house in Baltimore, Maryland, to Moab, Utah, and back. I've climbed over 8 Mount Everests. Why can't I say that word? All that and 0 weight loss. So I guess I need to just ride more. But how much more? Well, I decided to sit down and crunch the numbers. And what I found kind of shocked me. I'm not a professional. Everything I'm going to talk about is purely anecdotal, and you should always consult a health professional before starting any drastic lifestyle changes. Now, with that out of the way, I'm going to stick with just one basic principle. The best way to lose weight is to burn more calories than you consume. Calories in versus calories out. I mean, that's why people exercise to lose weight. They think they're burning more calories, right? Well, you are, but there are 2 pitfalls a lot of people fall into. One is how many calories their food actually contains, and the other is how many calories they burn during exercise. First, let's establish a baseline. Mainstream science says that the caloric equivalent of 1 pound of body weight equals 3,500 calories. So if all other things in our life stays the same, all we got to do is get on our bikes and pedal off 3,500 calories over 7 days and we'll lose a pound, right? I guess if we rode our bikes in a vacuum, that would be true. Let's, for the sake of argument, assume we do. Looking back at results from my fitness tracker, I discovered that when I go on a moderate bike ride, an hour or more, I burn an average of 9 calories per minute. I looked at a couple other folks on my Strava page. While one reported a whopping 12 calories per minute, another logged only 6. So for the sake of argument, I'm going to use the middle 9 calories as our value. In order to burn 3,500 calories at 9 calories per minute, all I need to do is ride 388.8 minutes or 6.5 hours a week. That's totally doable. But remember, that's in a vacuum. And we don't live in a vacuum, do we? Allow me to explain. Most of us don't have the time or fitness to get on our bikes and ride for 6.5 hours. So more than likely, we'll have to break it up. Let's, in this example, say we'll break it up into 3 rides a week, 2 hours each. I don't know about you, but before I set out on a big ride, I feel compelled to fuel up. Rightfully so, I suppose. Nobody wants to bonk, right? So, I'm going to have myself some breakfast. Now, I'm not usually a breakfast person, but on these days I make an exception. I don't go crazy, just a bowl of cereal and maybe a piece of fruit. If I know I'm going to be riding for a couple hours, I'll probably take something to snack on along the way. Maybe a bag of trail mix, or you might prefer a power bar. Then when I'm finished, I feel like I deserve a little snack. Maybe, I don't know, treat myself to a half a cup of ice cream. So once I tally up the calories consumed for the sole purpose of the bike ride, I'm down to a net deficit of 395 calories per ride. Multiply that by our 3 rides per week, and we're at 1185. 1/3 of my original target of 3,500 calories. And that's with a conservative estimation of my consumption during the ride. Imagine if you decided to buy yourself a Gatorade on a hot day, or drink a couple of beers with your pals after the ride. See where I'm going here? If you throw a trip to McDonald's on your way home, forget about it.
Yeah, what is that 2 cheeseburgers meals? What do you get with that?
You get a free pack of cigarettes.
Remember what I said earlier, that these are the things that I consume because I rode my bike. I'll most likely still eat the meals I normally eat during a typical day, like lunch and dinner. Probably a little more because I'm a little extra hungry from the ride, or I've psychologically convinced myself I can afford to cheat a little. After all, I rode 2 hours today. This takes me back to the sad reality I stated earlier and had to learn the hard way. We generally underestimate how many calories we consume and overestimate how many calories we burn during exercise. So what do?
Well, we're waiting.
Ride harder? If you're riding at a super casual pace, it would help to kick it up a notch, but too intense will inevitably be unsustainable or lead to injury. There are a few common sense decisions to make right off the bat. The main one is to avoid the Michael Scott syndrome.
Fettuccine Alfredo. Time to carbo load.
Most of us, when we go out on rides, aren't riding the Colorado Trail or preparing for the Tour de France. Avoid the urge to over-fortify. For most of us, a piece of fruit before a ride is all you'll need, especially if your goal is to force your body into a caloric deficit. Now listen, if you do decide to venture out on an epic ride longer than 2 hours, or if you know it's going to be particularly tough with some hills, then yeah, be sure to fortify more often while riding. You do want to keep your energy and your sugar levels level, but again, moderation. Second, avoid the high-calorie power bars and sugary flavored thirst-quenching drinks. The human body has taught itself through thousands of years of evolution to become an efficient machine. It can go weeks without food and days without water. For a 2-hour casual to moderate ride, you simply don't need them. Water is all you need, and if you're feeling a little peckish, I say power through it. But if you can't, an apple will give you a little sugar spike and the fiber will satisfy the hunger pangs. Third, this also goes without saying, if you're biking for weight loss, avoid the urge of the celebratory treat.
Get in my belly!
Yeah, ice cream is delicious, but that's not what we're doing here. Again, if you must, snack on some more fruit or raw vegetables. Your body metabolizes the natural sugars in fruits much better than refined sugars in candy and snacks. And lastly, be consistent. Weight loss is a marathon, not a sprint. 3 to 4 days a week is about the average minimum you should shoot for. If you've seen some of my other videos this year, you've seen I've embarked on a few challenges to better my fitness, and so far, it's been pretty successful. The one thing I haven't talked about is that I've also seen a pretty decent reduction in weight as well. While biking has been a part of it, it certainly hasn't been all of it. I've been reluctant to make any specific videos about it because I'm not a dietitian and I don't really feel comfortable giving lifestyle-changing advice. But if it's a story you'd like to hear, I'd be happy to share. So hit the like button and let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.